I'm Michael Williams, live in Sanford. Jurors are sequestered right now, knowing that when they come to the Seminole County Courthouse complex tomorrow, the George Zimmerman case will be in their hands.
More than 2 hours of closing arguments, they heard from the prosecution in the George Zimmerman case. Prosecutors say Zimmerman profiled Trayvon Martin as a criminal and then followed the teen. Zimmerman's defense attorneys will make their case tomorrow morning.
We have live team coverage from Sanford, anchored by our colleague Michael Williams. Michael, what's the latest from there?
As I said, jurors are sequestered right now, trying to get some sleep tonight, when tomorrow they'll be tucked away from the eyes of the cameras in the courtroom. Those 6 people, an all-woman jury, deciding the fate of George Zimmerman. But before all that, today, the closing arguments began from the prosecution, and then tomorrow morning, the defense will have its turn. Each side up to 3 hours for their closing arguments. How much of that time the defense will take, we'll find out in the morning when court gets underway around 8:30. Then the prosecution will have the final word, then the charging instructions for the jury. And after that, again, as I said, this case will finally be in the hands of that all-woman jury here, the second-degree murder trial of George Zimmerman. Up to them to decide his fate in the death of Trayvon Martin. For more on all of this, we go to my colleague Alex Sanz, who's been covering the trial since the very beginning. Alex?
You know, after all these days and weeks of testimony, Michael, as many as 60 witnesses, 12 days of testimony here at the Seminole County Criminal Justice Center, the prosecution built its closing on 2 things: assumptions and lies. That what George Zimmerman and his team told the jury these past several weeks, that it just wasn't genuine.
Part of my language. He was one of those punks. Now, the defendant, Mr. Zimmer, didn't scream that out. And so the defense will argue, well, that shows that he didn't have any ill will or hatred. No, I would submit to you that he uttered it under his breath. And that itself indicates ill will and hatred. And the defendant, made sure.
Of course, those 2 things have to be proven for the jury to convict him of second-degree murder. The defense pushed back hard today when the prosecution tried to add lesser charges to this. The judge said the jury could consider manslaughter, but not, after much debate, third-degree felony murder.
It doesn't apply. Self-defense is self-defense to everything. Self-defense to murder, self-defense to manslaughter, self-defense to battery. What happened out there was not a crime. So in that context, there shouldn't have been a second-degree murder charge, and there shouldn't be any lessers.
The judge has been pushing the attorneys to stay on the pace they're on, trying to keep things moving these next couple of hours. So if things stay the way they are, Michael, the jury could begin deliberations quite possibly within 24 hours.
Alex, thank you. Of course, speaking to those jury deliberations, when they go behind closed doors, every utterance, every document, every part of the legal strategy in the fight you've seen play out over weeks will be in one way or the other crossing their minds, and every legal advantage being fought for. And we wondered about the fact that tonight jurors go to bed with only the prosecution's first part of its closing argument in their minds. Does that give the prosecution an advantage, at least for now? We asked our News Channel 5 legal analyst Michelle Suskauer for her take on all of that.
It's possible when the jurors come back tomorrow that they may be leaning toward the state side, but then they have 3 hours of defense argument that's going to be very, very powerful by Mark O'Mara, who's a very skilled attorney. But the last thing that they're going to hear in terms of argument is from the state, because the state gets to finish with a rebuttal argument.
Legal punch and counterpunch. We will see much more of that in the dramatic closing arguments tomorrow morning in the second-degree murder trial of George Zimmerman. He, his family, and the family of Trayvon Martin in the courthouse complex behind me, as all eyes in Florida, indeed around the nation, look in on the deliberations here, which will be underway tomorrow as we speak. That jury will finally, as we said at the outset, have this case in their hands. And we'll be here with team coverage throughout the conclusion of the trial. For now, reporting live from Sanford, I'm Michael Williams, WPTV News Channel 5.